Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and in today's video gonna bring you a trio of games in tier 7 light tanks. So we are kicking off proceedings with Gwali in his T71. This is the American tier 7 light tank, the one that's kind of not on the proper light tank line but more on the sort of autoloader line, if that makes sense. You have the T20, the M7 at tier 5, T21 at tier 6. This at tier 7, T69 at tier 8, T54E1 at tier 9, and then the T57 Heavy at tier 10. He is in a tier 10 match, so this is the worst matchmaking he will see, and this is of course El Haluf. And in his wee little light tank, he's initially going to come down to this position and spot all of the enemy light tanks. Oh, flubbed shot, unfortunately, one there. Manages to put 2 shots into the enemy AMX-1357F platoon. Not a particularly common machine. The AMX-1357F was the tank that Wargaming brought out in honor of... Ooh, bad shot. In honor of the 2015 Grand Finals competitive scene. Now, of course, 6-round autoloader, so Gwali is reloading his gun. I should point out, of course, that at the time of recording this, and I imagine at the time when most of you will watch this, the 2016 Grand Final tank is available for sale if you are interested. That is the German Tier 7 Premium, the M41, I can't remember the exact name, but it's basically an M41 Walker Bulldog with a German 90mm gun. One more round, can he execute this AMX? Yes, he can. It doesn't get an autoloader, the Bulldog, the Tier 8 Bulldog, but as I say, it does get a 90mm gun. It's basically, if you look at it, it's an RU-251 turned into a premium with a Walker Bulldog skin, as far as I can work out. I'm not going to get one, personally. There we go. Good, and that's dealt with the light tank platoon. I'm not personally going to get one. I don't really see the point. I already have an RU-251, and I don't need the credit-making potential. So there. Anyway, that AMX-1357 platoon is now down. That was perhaps a little optimistic of them. And this T57 Heavy has been spotted, and Gwali is just going to light this guy up. Put some shots into him to do damage, manage to track the guy in place, and this will just be assistance damage city, which is nice. T57 Heavy, if he doesn't have a repair skill, he's doing it wrong, and he has been sitting there for quite some time, so it's entirely possible that he does not have a repair skill. Gwali going for the shot now on the Object 140. There's one, and there's the kill on him. That's kill number 3. Having executed 2 of those light tanks and that tier 10 Soviet medium. The T57 Heavy is somehow still alive, and there's a T37 in this match because he platooned up with someone, I guess. Platooned up with a tier 7 light tank and a tier 8 artillery. And to be fair, it's not that bad. It wasn't that long ago that tier 6 light tanks saw tier 10 games with their own matchmaking. Oh, FV-215B doesn't get the best armor in the world, but from range it's good enough to give this gun problems. If, however, he turns his nice big fat juicy side on towards Gwali, he's going to take a side full of shots. E100 on the other hand, you don't want to be shooting one of them with a light tank. Unless you have like rear shots. That's just not a good plan. However, the E100 is going full ham, I guess. He cares not for such silly things. And there's the FV. Failed to penetrate. There we go. But Gwali gets spotted for his troubles. He needs to be out of here. The FV-215B gets rather good DPM and excellent gun handling. So Gwali takes the opportunity to reload his mag. Not intending to fight for a little while, which is eminently sensible. And he's going to go somewhere else. Yeah, the FV-215B is a bit of a pain for light tanks. Enough armor to shrug off their shots most of the time. Excellent gun handling and very good DPM for a heavy tank, which means fighting and relatively agile, which means fighting those things for a light tank is a little bit of a nightmare. In a way, it's a bit more like fighting a medium tank. E100 is also a nightmare, but that's because you can't penetrate the blasted thing with most light tanks. So, FV again. Can he get the third shot in? Yes, it looks like the guy was tracked. Unfortunately, that shot goes into his gun mantlet. 2 more left. 1 more round left. And there we go. Leaves the guy on low enough health that the Object 140 can put him out of his misery. And reload the magazine again. Now Guali's got 2 clips of heat ammunition for this tank. The heat ammunition from this gun is not fantastic. The penetration goes from like 175 to 210, which isn't the biggest jump in the world, and when you factor in the fact that heat ammunition is not good against tracks and all this jazz, it's not actually a fantastic ammo choice. I carry a clip or 2 in my T71. I don't think I've fired a single round of it ever. So yeah. Remember I was saying that light tanks really need shots into the rear of an E100? There's his big fat juicy bum. Guali goes for a couple of shots, but unfortunately the guy is no longer spotted. If someone could do the honours, there we go. Dastardly rockets in the way. So there's just this E100, there's also a T110E5 who was last spotted over toward the base and is still over toward the base. On the one hand, he's probably not a massive threat. If you're the sort of guy who camps base in your top tier heavy tank, yeah, you're probably not a huge threat to anybody. On the other hand, it does mean that he is someone Guali needs to actually be concerned with. Go figure. But Guali, of course, does still have some artillery. There's the enemy tier 9 artillery, the M43-55, and Guali is just going to feast on this chap. Doesn't look like the chap's oh no, he does respond, but far too late to do anything useful about it. And Guali picks up kill number 5. Reloading the magazine, 10 shells left. Worth pointing out, of course, that with a 6-round autoloader, 10 shells does not give you 2 full magazines. So it might be that Guali ends up switching to heat ammunition purely because he runs out of his regular ammo. And also worth pointing out that the T71 is one of, off the top of my head, 2 tier 7 light tanks that fires APCR as standard ammunition. So if you have that ghastly little mod that tells you what ammo people are firing at you, and you start calling a T71 a gold spammer because he's firing APCR at you, you will look rather stupid. Oh, T110E5. T110E5 is another heavy tank that light tanks don't really like to deal with. Enough armor to give them problems, mobile enough to be an issue, and good enough gun handling to actually land those shots. And not bad DPM. Oh, that was lucky. That shell from the E100 could quite happily have taken out Guali, but I'm pretty sure by the sound of that shell, the E100 was spamming heat. And he is facing off against a Leopard 1, an Object 140, a Batchat artillery piece, and a T71. He doesn't need heat to penetrate any of them, and as just demonstrated there, heat has a habit of being eaten by tracks and whatnot. If he'd fired good old-fashioned armor piercing, Guali would be dead. Most likely. So, this is a nice little demonstration of why you should fire the right ammunition at the right target. Yes, heat ammo has 330 PEM, but that does not mean that you should fire it against Leopards and light tanks, because it will just bite you on the bum. Like that. So the T110 E5 is still around. E100 eventually gets taken out by the friendly Leopard. And the E100's whinging. Well, as I say, I'm pretty sure he fired heat, so he doesn't really have anyone to blame other than himself. This is a little bit risky. I really don't want to be executed by these guys. And because Guali misses that 3rd shot, it means he doesn't have the shots to take out the GWE100. Not that he necessarily would have done actually thinking about it. But he should be able to put 2 shells into this guy and then reload the magazine before this guy reloads. Not that this guy will ever be able to point the gun at him. The main threat now is friendly artillery killing him. Like that, if the shot had been slightly off, Guali would be a smouldering wreck. So, that was the game. A rather nice game, all things considered. A good bit of light tank driving there. Always nice to see. Let's go and have a look at those results then. So, if we have a look at those score screens, then that was enough for an Ace Tanker, Spotter, Bruiser, Fire for Effect, High Caliber, Tank Sniper, and Top Gun medals. And let that sink in for a moment. High Caliber meaning that Guali did the most damage in the game in a Tier 7 light tank, in a Tier 10 game, without firing any premium ammo. Also got the Tank Sniper award, of course, for doing the most damage at long range. If we actually have a look at those team scores then, 4,436 damage done, 6 kills, 2,015 base experience. That's not with a double, that's not with premium account, that is base XP. The next guy on his team, the Object 140, did 2,500 damage, 2 kills, 744 base XP, and yeah. Looking at the enemy team, that E100 probably had quite an expensive game, given the fact that I think he fired a heat round at a light tank and didn't even manage 4k damage. 1 kill and 489 base XP. 45 shots fired, 39 hits, 32 pens for that impressive damage count. 1600 of that from a distance of more than 300 meters. Received 3 hits, was very lucky not to die. 2 of them penetrated, one of them did not. That was the one that went into his tracks, and thankfully the other 2 hits he received were from those light tanks right at the beginning. 4 enemy tanks spotted, 10 damaged, 6 killed, and 3,468 assistance damage into the bargain. And if we have a look at who he was getting assistance damage on, 1,400 on that T57 heavy tank, 81 on one of those AMX 1357s. Yup, some on the GWE-100. E5 I imagine will be quite a lot. Oh, 572. And that FV, when people nailed him, Guali was the one doing the spotting. Looking at credits, 54,000 credits. Once you've taken away costs, that was a 40,500 credit profit. And of course, that 2015 base experience is very impressive. And that was all with a standard account. If you throw in a premium account, that becomes a 68,000 credit profit and 3,000 base experience. So a really, really nice game, however you look at it. Alright, that's the T71. Let's have a look at another Tier 7 American light tank. Alright, here we go with the next game then. This is the M41 Walker Bulldog. This is, of course, the other Tier 7 American light. It is, again, it's another tank that fires APCR as its standard ammunition. This thing actually got a nerf a few patches after it was released. Basically, it gets a single shotgun and an auto-loading gun. And people were using the single shotgun because of the better aiming stats, rate of fire, all that jazz. And so Wargaming nerfed the single shotgun, meaning the Bulldog now only gets the auto-loader. But it's a 10-round auto-loader, doing 1,500 clip damage on a light tank. It's a bit insane. Being driven for us today by Antal 2013. Sorry, Antal? Yes, Antal. I might just call him Ant for short. And he... maybe Ant-Man. And he is here on Malinovka. So Malinovka is one of the quintessential light tank maps. Lots of big open spaces, lots of bushes to take advantage of, lots of space to maneuver. Now the matchmaking for Antal here is rather better than it was in the previous game for Zvali. He is in a tier 8 game, which is of course the best matchmaking a tier 7 light tank will see. Light tanks of course are match made as if they were a tank 1 tier higher. Therefore a top tier, quote unquote, tier 7 light tank finds itself in a tier 8 game. And a bottom tier tier 7 light tank, as we saw in the previous game, finds itself in a tier 10 match, not a tier 7 match. So, Ant has been quite aggressive here. He's coming over, doing some spotting, hoping his allies get some shots on them. And he has to be a little bit careful because the M41 Walker Bulldog is a large machine. And it's also quite prone to module damage. In particular, the ammo rack appears to be everywhere and made of tissue paper. The number of Bulldogs I have ammo racked is... well, I haven't been counting. I would be a rich man if I had. So, yeah, Ant doing some aggressive spotting here, which is nice to see. Those of you... I mentioned in the previous replay that, of course, at the moment, Wargaming have their Grand Finals tank out, the M41 Walker Bulldog mixed 90mm gun, or whatever the hell it's actually called. It's a Bulldog with a 90mm single shotgun. It's basically, as I say, a reskinned RU-251, as far as I can work out anyway. So those of you pondering how it's going to perform, imagine the tank you are seeing now. This is the M41 Walker Bulldog, but with a 90mm gun without the autoloader, bit more health, and a tier higher. Yeah, I'm not sure whether that says the... I mean, because it doesn't look like the 90mm Walker Bulldog is a particularly bad tank, so that does seem to rather indicate that the Tier 7 Walker Bulldog is a ridiculously good tank, as some people have suggested anyway. Anywho, Ant is managing to do a really good bit of spotting here. Lots of damage coming in on the bad guys. Lots of tasty assistance damage for him. And at some point he may even be able to use that 76mm autoloader. Going for the Panther 2. Bounces 2 shots, which is rather unfortunate. One more to kill the Panther. There we go. And Ant does need to be a little bit careful here. It looks like he took a round from away in the distance, possibly from that A43, as he was engaging the Panther. And he doesn't take that shot on the move at long range. This is an autoloader, so every shell you waste, of course, later on you're going to have to reload your magazine. And as this is a 10-round autoloader rather than the 6-round autoloader that the T71 gets, your magazine reload time is rather longer. Having said that, he reloads the magazine anyway. I think this thing gets around a 30-second reload time on its mag as opposed to around 20 for the 6-round autoloaders that you find on some of the Tier 7 lights. Anyway, Ant did a good bit of spotting there, but now he's completely changing the engagement. Doesn't want to turn up in the same place twice, which is eminently sensible. So going for the big open field. If we count how many enemies have been spotted, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that we are aware of. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That leaves 2 enemy tanks unaccounted for. Now, one of them is going to be that artillery piece. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure which one the other is, but having a quick look, it looks like the Cromwell. So it looks like the Cromwell and the artillery have not yet been spotted, which means they're the ones that Ant is likely to come across on this flank. And of course, if he does, an M41 Walker Bulldog versus, well, either of those tanks is a pretty one-sided engagement. The Cromwell would be able to put a few shots into him for some damage. Oh no, it's the KV-85, not the Cromwell. My bad. Do apologise. Either way, this guy's screwed. Unless he has friends to put shots into Ant. Like that A43 away in the distance. So Ant loses sight on the KV-85, switches fire to the A43, and puts this 76mm gun to work. 2 more shots should be enough to kill this guy. 1 more shot. Nope. Try again. The accuracy on these guns is not fantastic, and there is Ant's second kill. Don't want to take a shell in the face from that KV-85, and of course Ant does have to reload his magazine here, and this is where the size of the Bulldog can kick you because, well, it's a big target. It's relatively easy to hit. Although it is a fast little machine. It's a fast big machine. It is quick, it is mobile, but it is also, as I say, large and prone to, in particular, ammo rack damage. So the KV-85 now is all by his lonesome, and Ant's just going to go for his face. It should take 2 shots to kill him. Okay, 3 after that low damage roll, which is kind of annoying, but there we go, and he is dead for kill number 3. Having said that, the friendly team has kind of melted on the other flank, and although he had a pretty much full magazine, Ant decides to go for the reload as he's going to be relocating anyway. Now he does actually load a clip of heat ammunition here. Seems a slightly curious choice to me. I probably would still be firing AP, but that's me. And again, just to point out, this is essentially the same gun that you find on the T71. It just has more shells in the magazine. So again, bear in mind that the regular rounds are APCR. Now I say I would have personally kept with the AP here, and by the look of it, I'd have been wrong, because the one target that the heat rounds would be good against, that KV-5, is the target that Ant finds. So yeah. Now of course has heat ammunition for the Sturra Emil, and this is a 10-round autoloader. He's not going to reload the entire magazine just because of 1 TD. Maybe he can get a shot on the OI. Nah, alas not. Goes for the reload on the magazine, going back to an APCR clip. Sturra Emil, M12, OI, Nashorn, none of these people require heat. I mean, you could say, oh, the OI has ridiculous amounts of armor, which is true, but the Bulldog is a very mobile machine, and it doesn't have that armor in the side. Having said that, he's reloading his magazine, and has the opportunity for a kill here, if he weren't reloading his magazine, so yeah, go figure. And he's telling his teammates, just shoot HE at the OI to guarantee the kill. As it is, OI manages to nail the artillery, IS-3 nails the OI, and let's move onward. 3 enemy tanks remaining. However, although the friendly team here definitely has the tier advantage, IS-3 is tier 8, M41, well, it's match made as a tier 8, put it that way. Although they have the tier advantage... Hello, Mr. Nashorn. That's a rather interesting move. The enemy team still have some very big guns. The IS-3 is one shot for the Sturra Emil. A two-shot... and Ant here is a two-shot for the guy. And of course there's still that M12 artillery piece, which is artillery. It might just tickle you, or miss you entirely, or it might completely wreck your face, depending on what sort of mood it's in. There's the Sturra Emil. Flubs the first shot. Flubs the second, 10-round autoloader, so who cares about flubbing those, has the guy's bum, there's one in, and the IS-3 actually manages to ninja the kill. That just leaves the M12, and of course this is a 10-round autoloader, so Ant still has 5 shells, which is perfectly capable of wrecking an M12, and Ant is going to go on the hunt. The M12 is probably down in this corner, sort of K0, you often find the artillery down in that corner. But of course, Ant can still be one-shot by the guy, because, yay! Even though he has 680 health, I mean, that's just the way it is. But M12, there he is, and one shell, and there's the second, and can we have a third? Yes, we can, and that is the game. And Ant and friends managed to pull a win out of that one. So this was less ludicrous amounts of damage. But let's go and see how well he did regardless. So there we go, that ended up being enough for Ace Tanker, Spotter, Bruiser, Duelist, Fire for Effect, Scout, Patrol Duty, and a Top Gun. More the sort of medals you associate with a light tank rather than High Caliber and Tank Sniper and all of that jazz. 2,920 damage done, 6 kills, 1,933 base experience, so marginally less than the previous game, but still an awful lot of XP there. But with only, I say only, it's still a nice damage count, but with, air quotes, only just under 3,000 damage done, which of course means that he got 5,403 assistance damage. Nice bit of spotting just on pretty much everything. 33 shots fired, 27 hits, 23 pens for that damage count. Most of it was from relatively close range. Received 2 hits, of which 1 penetrated and 1 did not, so that'll probably be track damage. Spotted 10 enemy tanks for that scout medal, damaged 7, killed 6, got 5,500 assistance damage as I mentioned. Travelled over 6 kilometers, which is not a stat you usually see very often. And made a 42,000 credit profit, again with a standard account. With a premium account that would have been up to 67,500 credits, and again 1,900 base XP and 2,900 if that had been a premium account. So there we go. That was the M41 Walker Bulldog. For the third game we're going to have a slight change of pace. I say we're having a change of pace, of course. As I mentioned, this is still going to be a Tier 7 light tank game, but we're going from the American lights to the Chinese, so no autoloader this time. This is the WZ-131. Now this thing gets a choice of 2 different guns. There's an 85 and a 100mm gun. Different people like different weapons. And the driver here today, who is Marecito, seems to prefer the 85mm gun and has 2 marks of excellence on the tank, so credit where credit is due. This is a Tier 9 game, so this is middle of the road matchmaking. Could be better, could be worse. We've had 1 top tier, effectively 1 bottom tier, and this one, as I say, middle of the road. And he is here on, is it Sacred Valley the name? Yes, Sacred Valley. Now, of course, since this game was played, this map has been changed. Basically, the corner down here where all the stuff is, down in the bottom left corner of the map, has been altered. I've only played 1 game on this map since the changes, so I don't really know everything that they've done. I must admit my first opinion of the changes is not positive. However, like I say, I've only played 1 game on it, so take that opinion with the bucket of salt that it deserves. So, Marecito here, seeing if he can spot anyone. You usually get some people pushing along the bridge, or at least camping up there where the T44 is, so hurrah! Little bit of a spotting there. Moving forward here, depends on whether that T44 can spot Marecito. If he can, that's rather optimistic, but he hasn't been spotted, so it looks like it's all grand. Tiger P there, away in the distance, and a T20. You can just about see the turret of. Does he feel brave enough to take a shot? No, he doesn't, and who can blame him? Taking that shot would probably, on balance, have been a bad idea. T20. Also 5916 over there. Ooh, he takes a lot of pain. Maracito goes for the shot on the T20, but it's a 450 meter shot, and his shell misses. The accuracy on this gun is not bad, but it's 450 meters away. It's a long range shot. Go figure. Just waiting to see how this match develops. We're not sure if there's anyone in a position to spot Maracito should he decide to move forwards. He has a couple of guys in support. There's a T49, a Pershing, and oh, hello Tiger P. T54E1 by the look of it back there. So some support, not vast amounts, but some. And there's a rather unfortunate Tiger P who is getting absolutely wrecked and who is dead as Maracito's Pershing ally picks up the kill on him. Scoreline is currently 3-2 with the death of that T37, and Maracito decides that, yeah, screw this, it's time to move forward and apply some pain to these guys. So moving up here, and just coming up this little rise here allows him to duck back and get back into cover if necessary, but he can come forward and engage people as the situation calls for it. T49 is going after this T44, so putting some shots into the rear of the T44 to help the T49 out. Although I don't think this T49 is going to survive, if I'm honest. That was not a great shot. Come on, Maracito. Pick the bugger up. Bounces that round, takes one from the T44 in return, but there's his rear and there's the kill, and the T49 is actually still alive. I take it back. I was wrong. So there we go. The friendly team have successfully assaulted across the, well, the capture circle. This is, of course, an encounter game, and there is a Batchat artillery piece. Now, that's the Tier 9. Tier 9 does not get that stupid autoloader. And there we go, 2 shots in. This gun has 200 alpha, if I remember correctly, and about 160 pen. 159 pen and 200 alpha, so yeah, close enough. Also, of course, spotted the FV artillery piece. Seeing if he can pick up a kill, or at least get some shots into this fellow. He's gone off way too early. And no, Maracito isn't able to pick up the kill. Someone else does instead. T30 over there. We need to be very careful here. T30 has a darn big gun. There's also, of course, a T20 away in the background. And although there are 3 of them here, one of them is a T37 who doesn't have the biggest gun in the world or the most health. And that shot, probably from the T20, Amarax Maracito, which is slightly suboptimal. T30 nails the T37. And Maracito is now going to play Ring a Ring of Roses with this T30, setting him on fire. And the Pershing, being the utter star that he is, flubs his shot and puts a shot into Maracito instead. Sets the T30 on fire again, those big fat American booties. And yeah, Maracito, it happens. Shooting your ally doesn't help. And the FV3805 is whinging that the WZ is firing gold, except you are watching the replay and you will see he has fired nothing but his armor-piercing rounds. So that seems to be a fairly comical conclusion to be reached by the enemy artillery. He's a bitter, sour little camper. So I've had someone say I was firing gold and they said, oh, I'm using a mod that tells you what ammo type you're using. Well, your mod is clearly wrong because I fired armor-piercing. So yeah, these mods are not reliable, let's put it that way. Of course, now the situation is becoming a little dire. Having been shot by that Pershing, Maracito is now a one-shot for everything on the enemy team. If he hadn't been shot by that Pershing, there are some things on the enemy team that would still be able to one-shot him, but it's mainly that 110 against whom it makes the most difference. But as things stand, Maracito, as I say, is a one-shot. He has switched to heat ammunition now, which gets 230 pen and still, of course, that 200 alpha. That gives him, I guess, a bit more of an advantage against the... well, against everyone, really, but into the flank of an SU-122-44, heat is not needed or necessarily even desirable. Pershing dies. Maracito manages to pick up the kill on the SU, and he does not want to get shot by that Centurion. That would spell the end for his little adventure. It's the 3 of them left, of course, T54E1, T34, and Maracito's WZ here. T54 nails the IS-3, taking him out of the picture, and so they find themselves against 3 enemy opponents: Centurion 71, a 110, and a Jagdtiger. There is the 110, and it bounces. You might have 230 pen with your heat ammo, but you still need to aim for the lower front plate on the 110. On the upper plate, your effective armor is like 250 or something. Like I said. Now, he is aiming for the lower plate, to be fair to him, but at this sort of range, it's a difficult shot. Does get a penetration in, however. But that's like 1 penetration out of 4 shots. T54E1 has gone to a better place now, which means Maracito doesn't have the support here and he's kind of out of position. T34 is, however, capping. So this forces the enemy team to come to them. Now, the Jagdtiger, we don't know exactly where he is, but given where he was last spotted, there's a reasonable chance he won't make it back to the cap circle in time. Centurion, however, does, but he's a one-shot. And Maracito puts that round through his lower front plate. Now, he doesn't actually need heat for that shot, but it does the job. Anyway, Jagdtiger has indeed made it back to the base, so he clearly was engaging his brain and his W key for a little while. Eminently sensible of him. And there is the 110. This is an awkward situation. T34 has been reset. 110 has backed the hell off. And that T34 is in a whole world of trouble. Now, Maracito ideally really wants to take out this Jagdtiger. Jagdtiger has fired. He has to kind of take this opportunity as best he can. If he can get the tracking shot on this guy, that would be great. Oh, never mind. He's managed to find his rear. And I would be switching. Oh, he's already switched to armor piercing. Never mind. I take it back. One more shot will kill the Jagdtiger, but not before the Jagdtiger kills the T34. And that just leaves Maracito's WZ versus the enemy 110. It's a Chinese showdown, light tank versus heavy tank. And they both effectively have the same matchmaking. Tier 7 light tank, of course, is match made as a Tier 8, and he's against a Tier 8 heavy tank, so yeah. 110 has the health advantage. He can kill Maracito in one shot. He doesn't have the best soft stats, but go figure. Maracito needs 4 shots to kill that guy with average damage rolls. He switched back to the heat ammunition here, which, yeah, you can't really blame him for. And oh, he didn't take that shot. Didn't like the shot, presumably. It's fair enough. Does get spotted for his trouble, though. The 110, although the view range isn't the best in the world, it's nowhere near as blind as the IS-3. It does come with 380 meter view range, which is not too bad. Now, this guy is capping, but this is an encounter game, so Maracito has the time to take the long way round, drive around the map, and approach this guy from pretty much any direction he chooses. For those who don't know, of course, the cap counter goes up at half the speed in an encounter game, so whereas usually it would take you 100 seconds to get to 100 capture points, in an encounter game it takes 200 seconds, which to convert that to something more meaningful is a shade over 3 minutes. Maracito, therefore, is going around the long way. And that 110 is just waving a flag, giving away his position. We know where he is. He's in the capture circle, so we don't have to worry about that. Might have to concern himself with which direction the 110 is looking in, but frankly, the 110 doesn't know what direction Maracito's WZ is going to turn up from here. And so, at best, it's a little bit pot luck. Which gives Maracito more of an advantage than you might otherwise think. Now, he has spotted the 110, but the 110 is behind a rock and a wreck, meaning that Maracito doesn't really have a shot on the guy, but the guy clearly thinks that Maracito is going to be away where he was last spotted, and so he's moving back and forth, but by moving back and forth, he's actually making himself occasionally a potential shot for Maracito's WZ. So here we have an odd little situation, but that's not a good shot. Maracito doesn't like it. Moving around to get a far better shot into the 110, but he gets spotted for it. And now we're getting into the rather dicey situation where Maracito doesn't need to reset yet, but his easy reset opportunity, if you will, has gone. As the 110 is now up to 60 base capture points. And of course, the closer to 100 you get, the less time Maracito has to work with to reposition and all that jazz. So Maracito repositions again, comes at the guy from an alternate angle, and he goes back around the other side of the castle. And again, trying to spot this fellow. But bear in mind, Sixth Sense has a 3-second delay, so he wouldn't know he's spotted until 3 seconds after he actually is spotted. And the 110 could well have killed him by then. Of course, he is only a one-shot for the 110. 110 is looking the wrong way. And, oh, Maracito gets a shot in, goes around the side, and doesn't stop at all. And now we have a bit of an odd situation. The 110 can go for Maracito. He has the health to take 2 more shots before being a one-shot. It will take 3 shots to kill this 110 with average damage rolls. It will only take 1 shot to kill Maracito. And so that shot that he took earlier on from the Pershing suddenly becomes rather pertinent. If he had not taken that shot from the Pershing, he could afford to take 1 round from the 110 here. If necessary. No, I'm not necessarily saying he'd want to, but he could afford to do it. Comes around, puts 1 shot into the 110. This 110 is not on the ball. Second shot leaves the guy on 33 health. 1 more round to take this fellow out. And there we go. That is the win. With 1 minute 56 seconds left on the clock, let's go and see what the results of that one were like. Okay, so that was another ace tanker. Yeah, we saw that coming. Bruiser, Arsonist, Fire for Effect, Defender, Top Gun, and an Orlix medal. Orlix medal is for racking up, I think it's 3 or more kills while driving a light tank. Awarded for destroying 3 or more enemy tanks or tank destroyers with a light tank. The targets must be at least 2 tiers higher than the player's tank. The player's tank here, of course, is tier 7. He managed to kill the Jagdtiger, that's 1. The Batchat artillery piece, that's 2. What else? Centurion, 7/1. The Batchat may not actually count because it's artillery thinking about it, so Centurion will make it 2. T30 will make it 3. Having a look at the team scores, Maracito finished with 4,735 damage, 7 kills, 2,015 base experience. A very impressive game there. M26 Pershing finished second. 32 shots fired, 28 hits, 24 pens for that damage count, most of it from relatively close range actually. 2 enemy tanks spotted, 8 damage, 7 destroyed, only a little bit of assistance damage though, and travelled almost 6 kilometres. Times 2 for the first win of the day, so with a premium account that was over 6,000 experience, and in terms of credits that was a 14,000 credit profit, because of course he fired a fair few heat rounds to try and secure the win there. Not a perfect game. I was a little disappointed to see him return a shot at the Pershing. The Pershing probably hit him accidentally. I don't think it was on purpose. But a little bit disappointed to see him return the shot there. It doesn't achieve anything. It doesn't help you win. In fact, it does the opposite. But anyway, when all's said and done, a very nice result regardless. And I hope you guys enjoyed that trio of light tank games. If you did, by all means, feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel. And I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao, ciao.